Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're all about getting you speaking English more fluently.
Yeah, this isn't your typical lesson, though.
Right. We're not focusing on like grammar rules and stuff like that.
No.
This one's all about changing how you think. Like before you even open your mouth to speak.
Yeah, kind of preparing your brain to think in English.
We've got this really interesting English lesson in front of us and
It uses a really relatable example, too, like something we all do every day.
daily routine. I like it. Gets you right into it.
Yeah.
So no more beating around the bush.
Yeah.
What's the big secret here? What's this magical thinking process that leads to fluency?
Well, the lesson calls it the 5 W's powerhouse.
Ooh, 5 W's powerhouse.
Yeah, like the classic who, what, when, where, why questions.
Oh, yeah.
But the idea is to ask these questions to yourself in English before you actually say anything.
Interesting. So it's kind of like planning out what you're going to say, right?
Exactly. It's like having a roadmap in your head. But it also goes deeper than that. There's some research out there, actually, that suggests that this kind of active thinking can really help you remember things better and make your speech sound more natural.
Oh, that's cool. So it's not just about like knowing the words. It's about getting your brain wired for English.
Right. And the lesson has this great example with this fictional character, Mike.
Okay, Mike.
And his morning routine.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What does Mike do?
So we find out that Mike's 50 years old, and he, starts his day with a workout.
Okay, typical morning routine stuff.
Right. But instead of just, passively observing that, the lesson encourages you to think about it, to say it in English.
Okay.
Like, Mike, a 50-year-old man, begins his day with a rigorous workout.
Okay, I see. So we're not just like watching Mike. We're actually describing what he's doing.
Right. And using the language to do it.
And that gets our brains working. Yeah.
Exactly. And then as you go through the rest of the 5 W's, the picture gets even clearer.
So, like, when? Well, he works out every morning at 6 a.m. sharp.
Okay.
Where? At a large gym not far from his house.
It's like those Where's Waldo pictures. You keep adding more and more details.
Yeah, you got it. And then, of course, you get to the why.
That's the juicy part. I bet there's a good reason behind Mike's dedication.
There is. The lesson tells us that he grew up on a farm, where hard work was everything. And then later he served in the military where, fitness was really important.
Makes sense. So it's not just a random routine. It's like ingrained in him.
Exactly. All because we asked why.
That's pretty cool. I'm already starting to think about my own morning routine differently now.
That's the point. The lesson even gives you a whole script, of how Mike would describe his routine.
Oh, wow. That's helpful.
Plus, it throws in some good vocabulary along the way. Words like consistency, impressive, discipline.
So we're getting like a method, an example, and vocabulary all in one.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And it sounds like this isn't just a morning routine thing, right?
Right. It goes into afternoon and evening routines, too.
Oh, wow. It covers the whole day.
So it shows you how you can use this 5 W's thing, anywhere, anytime.
With any activity.
Yeah.
So are there any like really interesting moments from those other routines that we should mention? Like to give our listeners a sneak peek?
Well, in the afternoon routine, there's this focus on the phrase, at around.
Okay. At around?
For expressing times. Like if you don't know the exact time.
No, I see, like approximately.
Yeah, like at around 3 p.m. It's a small thing.
Yeah.
But it makes your English sound way more natural.
Oh, I get it. Those little things can make a big difference, right?
Totally. And then in the evening routine, there's this really interesting bit about the word foodie.
Foodie? Okay.
Yeah, and how like sharing a love for food can help you connect with people.
Okay, now we're talking food and language.
2 of the best things.
Exactly. So it's not just about describing actions anymore. We're connecting with people.
Right. And that's a big part of fluency. It's not just about being grammatically correct.
It's about using language to make real connections.
Yeah. Exactly. And the lesson actually shares a personal story from the teacher's own life.
Oh, cool.
To show how this foodie idea works.
Okay, now I'm really interested. Let's hear it.
So the teacher, she had just started at a new school, right?
Okay. New school, new people, new everything.
Yeah, and it was kind of intimidating,
Yeah, especially when you're still getting comfortable with the language.
Exactly. So she's, meeting her new colleagues. And there's this one teacher, Annie. And they start to chat, just kind of surface level stuff.
Like, hey, how are you? Nice weather we're having.
Yeah, that kind of thing. But then something interesting happens.
Okay, I'm listening.
Annie comes up to the teacher and asks if they can study the Bible together.
The Bible. Okay, interesting. But I don't see the food connection yet.
Hold on, it's coming. The thing is, Annie specifically asked to study the Bible in English.
Oh, wow. That's dedication.
Right. Even though they could have easily just used, their native language.
Korean.
Right, Korean. So they start meeting up regularly.
Okay.
Having these deep conversations about, faith and life, all in English.
Wow. So Annie's really immersing herself in the language.
Totally. And that's when the real turning point happens. Annie invites the teacher to lunch.
Okay.
At an Indian restaurant.
Uh-huh. The foodie connection. Finally. I knew it was coming.
I told you, she knew that the teacher loved trying new foods.
That's a thoughtful gesture. It's like she was really paying attention,
Exactly. It was more than just a casual lunch invite.
It was like she was speaking the language of friendship. And food was the, like the special code.
I like that. And of course, the teacher, being a big foodie, is super excited.
I bet. Who would be?
And so they go to this Indian restaurant. They're trying all these amazing dishes, the aromas, the flavors.
I can practically smell it now.
And they both have this moment, this shared foodie bliss.
Like a foodgasm.
Yeah, something like that. And in that moment, a real bond was formed.
All thanks to a shared love of good food. I love that.
And that bond turned into a genuine friendship that they still have to this day.
That's awesome. So what's the takeaway here?
I think it's that fluency isn't just about textbook knowledge.
Right.
It's about using language to connect with people, to share experiences, and build relationships.
That's like Annie instinctively knew that.
And that's a lesson for all of us, Don't be afraid to get out there.
Yeah.
Use English in ways that are meaningful to you.
Find your own Indian food moment.
Exactly.
It could be anything, really, right? Like joining a book club or volunteering or I don't know.
Anything that gets you talking and connecting with people.
It's so true. Make language a part of your life, not just something you study.
Absolutely. And it brings us back to the 5 W's method. Remember how we talked about creating that mental script?
Yeah, like planning out what you want to say.
Well, I can actually help you with your pronunciation, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, think about that.
Yeah, by thinking through the 5 W's before you speak, you're not just planning the content. You're also kind of rehearsing the sounds in your head.
Oh, I see, like a mental warm-up for your mouth.
Exactly. So instead of just practicing random words, you're focusing on the ones you'll actually use.
The ones you need for your own conversations, for telling your own stories.
Right. So it makes your practice more targeted and effective.
That makes so much sense. It's like the difference between practicing scales on a piano and actually playing a song.
Yeah, perfect analogy. The 5 W's are like your sheet music.
Guiding your pronunciation as you play those words out loud. I love that.
And just like with music, the more you practice,
the smoother and more natural your performance will become. But, we've been talking about all these different skills, pronunciation, vocabulary, thinking in English.
Right. All important stuff.
But there's one crucial element that we haven't really touched on yet.
Okay, what's that?
It's like, imagine you've been practicing your piano scales diligently. You know the sheet music inside and out, but then you freeze up when it's time to perform in front of an audience.
Oh, yeah, stage fright. That can happen to anyone.
And it can happen with language, too,
Oh, for sure. Like, you might know the words, but then you get scared to actually use them.
Exactly. That fear of making mistakes, of sounding imperfect, it can really hold you back.
And it's a common problem, right? I bet a lot of our listeners are nodding their heads right now thinking, yeah, that's me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think we need to dedicate some time to tackling this fear head on.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's figure out how to silence that inner critic and unleash those fluent voices.
I'm in. Let's dive deep into the psychology of fear and give our listeners some practical strategies for overcoming it.
Sounds like a plan. Stay tuned, everyone, because in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to help you break free from those fluency fears and unlock your full potential.
And, going to this Indian restaurant, it was like a perfect way for Annie to show that she was really getting to know the teacher.
Yeah, like she wasn't just being polite.
Yeah. It was a genuine gesture of friendship.
It really was. Food is like a universal language, right?
It is. And, it can break down barriers and bring people together.
Absolutely. And I bet the teacher was over the moon with that invitation.
Oh, yeah. She was thrilled. She loved trying new things, and Indian food was right up her alley.
I can imagine. So what happened at the lunch?
Well, they're sitting there, enjoying all the different dishes, and suddenly they both have this kind of like aha moment.
Like a food epiphany.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They both realize how much they both love Indian food. It's like they found this common ground, this shared passion.
And that's where the real connection was made.
Right. It went beyond just studying the Bible together. It was like they tapped into this deeper level of understanding.
It's amazing how food can do that.
Right.
Bring people closer.
It really is. And the lesson uses the story to emphasize how fluency isn't just about grammar and vocabulary.
Right. It's about using language to build relationships and create meaningful connections.
Exactly. And sometimes those connections can come from the most unexpected places, like a shared love of spicy curry.
I love that. And I think it's a great reminder for all of us learning English.
Don't be afraid to put yourself out there.
Yeah, get out of your comfort zone.
Find those activities and experiences that you're passionate about.
Find your own Indian food, so to speak.
Exactly. Because when you're genuinely interested in something, the language will flow more naturally.
And you'll be more motivated to learn and improve.
Right. And, this brings us back to the 5 W's method. Remember how we talked about creating that mental script before you speak?
Yeah, like organizing your thoughts in English.
Yeah. Well, it turns out that this can actually help with your pronunciation, too.
Oh, really? Tell me more.
So by thinking through the 5 W's in your head, you're not only planning out what you want to say, but you're also kind of like pre-practicing the sounds.
Oh, I see. It's like a mental rehearsal for your mouth.
Exactly. And this can make a huge difference because you're training your brain and your muscles to produce those specific sounds.
So instead of just practicing random words from a vocabulary list,
you're focusing on the words and phrases that you'll actually use in real conversations.
It's like personalized pronunciation practice.
Exactly. It's much more effective and efficient.
That makes so much sense. And it connects back to our piano analogy.
Oh, yeah. The 5 W's are like your sheet music.
Guiding your pronunciation as you play those words and phrases.
And just like with music, the more you practice, the smoother and more natural your performance will become.
I like that. But we've been talking a lot about individual skills, like pronunciation, vocabulary, thinking in English.
Right. All important stuff.
But I feel like there's this bigger piece of the puzzle that we haven't addressed yet.
You're right. And it's a big one.
Okay. Lay it on me. What's the missing piece?
It's that feeling of, hesitation or fear that can hold you back from speaking confidently.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly what you mean. It's like you have all the tools, but you're scared to use them.
Exactly. Imagine you're back at the piano, you've practiced your scales, you know the music, but then you freeze up when it's time to perform.
Stage fright. Been there, done that.
And it can happen with language, too.
Big time. It's like your brain knows what to say, but your mouth just won't cooperate.
And a lot of it comes down to this fear of making mistakes.
Oh, yeah. That inner critic can be brutal.
We worry about what other people will think we're afraid of sounding stupid.
And that fear can be paralyzing.
It can. So in the next part of our deep dive,
I
think we need to tackle this fear head on and give our listeners some practical strategies for overcoming it.
Yes. Let's help them break free from those fluency fears and unleash their full potential.
I'm all for it. Stay tuned, everyone, because we're about to get real about the psychology of fear and how to conquer it.
Okay, so how do we tackle this fear? This fear that's holding us back?
Well, first, we gotta understand where it's coming from.
Okay, get to the root of the problem.
Yeah, and with English, a lot of it is about worrying what others think.
Totally. Like, are they judging my accent? Are they thinking I sound stupid?
Exactly. It's that fear of judgment, of being, perceived as incompetent or foolish that can really keep us quiet, even when we have something important to say.
Yeah, it's like that inner critic's always there, ready to pounce.
Right. But what if we tried to look at it differently?
Okay, I'm open to suggestions.
Instead of seeing mistakes as failures, what if we saw them as valuable feedback?
Oh, interesting. Like a learning opportunity.
Yeah. Like every time you stumble, you're actually getting closer to fluency.
I like that. It takes the pressure off a bit.
And think about it. Even native speakers make mistakes.
Oh, all the time. They just keep talking.
Exactly. They don't let a little slip up derail the whole conversation.
Yeah, they just roll with it.
And that's the mindset we need to adopt.
Focus on the communication, not on perfection.
Right. Celebrate the small wins, like using a new word correctly or having a conversation without freezing up.
Yes. Those little victories can be huge for your confidence.
And they remind you that you're making progress, that you're capable of learning and growing.
Okay, this is all great in theory, but how do we actually put it into practice? How do we silence that inner critic that's always telling us we're not good enough?
Well, one thing that can help is to shift your focus
Okay, shift my focus from what to what?
from the outcome,
Yes.
from speaking perfectly to the process of just communicating.
Okay, be present in the moment.
Exactly. Remember that story about the teacher and Anne?
Oh yeah, the Indian food connection.
They weren't focused on speaking perfect English. They were focused on sharing a meal, a laugh, a connection.
And they built a real friendship out of it.
And that's where the real magic of language happens.
When you can connect with someone on a human level, regardless of how perfectly you speak.
Absolutely. And another thing that can help is surrounding yourself with supportive people.
Oh, for sure. Like a language exchange partner or a study group.
Yeah, find people who are on the same journey as you. People who will encourage you and celebrate your wins with you.
And who won't judge you when you make mistakes.
Exactly. Because learning a language can be tough.
Yeah.
And it's much easier and more enjoyable when you have a support system.
It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
I like that. And fluency is definitely a journey, not a race.
Speaking of journeys, remember that idea of finding your Indian food moment?
Oh, yeah, like getting out there and using English in real-life situations.
Well, those experiences can also help you develop a more flexible approach to communication.
Oh, how so?
Because you're exposed to different accents, different dialects, different ways of speaking.
Right. You start to realize that there's no one right way to speak English.
And that can be really liberating, actually.
It is. It takes the pressure off of sounding perfect and allows you to just be yourself.
So it's like we're building this fluency toolbox, and each experience adds a new tool.
And the more tools you have, the more confident you become.
That's a great analogy. So what's the final takeaway here? What advice would you give to our listeners who are still struggling with this fear of speaking?
I'd say, first and foremost, be kind to yourself. Learning a language takes time and effort.
Don't compare yourself to others.
Focus on your own progress. Celebrate your achievements, and don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Because mistakes are just proof that you're learning and growing.
Exactly. And remember, fluency isn't about perfection.
It's about connection, communication, and expressing yourself authentically.
So keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep believing in yourself. You've got this.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Remember, fluency is a journey, not a destination. Embrace the ups and downs. Find your own Indian food moments and never stop exploring the amazing world of English. Until next time.